again among the group, and their spirits lifted more with every passing day. Everything was moving in the right direction, but there was still something gnawing at me. Boss Leo, the former property manager of Blue Bay Community, who had thrown defenseless, elderly people like my parents out to fend for themselves, that debt would be repaid, sooner or later. Besides, Blue Bay Community's defenses and living conditions were far superior to this rundown factory. I wanted to give my parents and everyone who followed me a real home, something more stable and secure. It was time to go pay Boss Leo a visit. A week later, I was fully prepared. Using my refresh ability, I restored every abandoned electric vehicle I found in the factory to its original factory condition, fully charged, and refreshed dozens of brand new protective suits, safety helmets, and steel-toed boots. For weapons, in addition to steel pipes and hatchets, I had my people grind factory steel into dozens of sharp spears. As for Scar and his inner circle, they were completely loyal to me now. I kept them fed and clothed. In the apocalypse, that was a debt greater than life itself. I picked the 20 strongest people, Scar among them. Before we set out, I looked at my assembled team and said simply, "We're not going there to beg. We're going to take back what was always ours." Blue Bay Community has solid walls, comfortable homes, and we are going to build a real home there. Everyone who's with me, get in. Not one person hesitated. After everything they had seen me do, their trust in me was absolute, almost blind. A convoy of 20, moving with purpose, rolled toward Blue Bay Community. When we reached the north gate of Blue Bay Community, the guards on the wall had already spotted us. They stared at our well-equipped convoy, visibly thrown off. "Scar, weren't you kicked out? What are you doing back here?" Scar, now my devoted second, straightened his back and answered with full confidence. "We're here to negotiate a partnership with Boss Leo." "A partnership with you lot?" The guard snorted. At that, I stepped out of the vehicle and walked to the front. "Tell Boss Leo," I said calmly, "that Evan Lin is back." The guard didn't know me, but seeing me at the center of the group, he could tell I wasn't someone to dismiss, and after a moment's hesitation, he radioed it up. Soon the north gate swung open, and Boss Leo came out with a large crowd behind him, including Lena, captain of Sharp Blade Squad. Boss Leo was a heavy-set man in his mid-40s, with sharp, arrogant eyes. He took in our convoy, our brand new gear, our sharp and well-fed look, and a flicker of surprise and greed crossed his face. Well, if it isn't young Evan Lin. Haven't seen you in a few days. Where'd you come into all this good fortune?" "Let's skip the small talk, Boss Leo. I'm here to move my people into Blue Bay Community." Boss Leo reacted as if he just heard the funniest thing in years, breaking into a loud, booming laugh. "Evan, did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Blue Bay Community is my territory. What gives you the right to walk in?" "This," I snapped my fingers. Behind me, Scar hoisted up a crate and opened it, packed full of sealed, factory-fresh compressed crackers. Boss Leo's laughter stopped dead. Behind him, the guards all drew a sharp breath. Blue Bay Community had strong defenses but a large population and a constant food shortage. Their daily ration was nothing more than a piece of dark bread. Where did you get all this food?" "You don't need to know where it came from. I'm only asking you one thing. Deal or no deal?" Boss Leo's eyes flickered. "And what kind of deal are you proposing?" "Simple. My people move in, we supply a portion of the food, you handle security, we co-manage the community." At that, Boss Leo's expression darkened. "Kid, that's quite an appetite you've got. I'm the leader of this base. Why on earth would I share power with some nobody who showed up out of nowhere? Those are my terms. If you don't agree, we'll take it by force." "Take it by force? Ha! With your 20-something people?" "Lena!" At his command, Lena and every member of Sharp Blade Squad stepped forward in unison, a wave of lethal intent rolling off them like a cold wind. Sharp Blade Squad was Blue Bay's ace, every member a battle-hardened ability user. My people tensed up immediately. Only I didn't flinch. I looked at Lena, the woman who had helped me once before. She was looking back at me, curiosity and surprise in her eyes. "Commander Lena, do you really think we can't get in?" Lena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Mr. Lin, you're clearly capable, but Blue Bay Community has 200 security personnel. Forcing your way in won't end well for you." It was a genuine warning. Boss Leo smirked with satisfaction. "You hear that? Don't push your luck. Hand over all your food and I might let you and your parents in, as ordinary residents. As for your people, send them back where they came from." So that was his answer: swallow all my supplies, and drive away everyone loyal to me. Quite the scheme. I smiled. Looks like we're done talking. I slowly raised my right hand and aimed it at the tallest residential tower behind them. I looked them in the eye and said, "One word at a time. I'll give you one last chance. Let me in or I make that building disappear." My words dropped the entire scene into an eerie silence. Then it exploded into deafening laughter. Boss Leo laughed until his eyes watered. "Lena, you hear this? That's the funniest thing I've heard all year." But Lena didn't laugh. She just stared at me, her expression grave and unreadable. Something told her I wasn't joking. I wasn't. I let my smile fade and began counting down. Boss Leo's smile froze. The laughter died. People exchanged glances, a creeping unease setting in. That 30-story tower was the landmark of Blue Bay Community, and where most of the security team's families lived. When I counted down to 1, Boss Leo finally roared, all bluster and no backbone. "You're bluffing, take him down." But it was already too late. The moment I finished counting, I unleashed my ability, not an object within 1 meter, but pushing its range to the absolute limit in an instant. I aimed at the tower standing 100 meters away and whispered in my mind, "Refresh." The world went silent, as if someone had hit mute. Before the eyes of hundreds of horrified onlookers, the 30-story tower began to flicker violently, like a television losing its signal, its outline blurring, becoming translucent. In just 1 second, the entire building and everything inside it simply ceased to exist. All that remained was a bare, empty foundation, as if it had never been there at all. Every face in the crowd froze, expressions locked in blank shock and a terror that had no words. Boss Leo's men completely broke. They dropped their weapons and ran screaming in every direction, as if fleeing the end of the world itself. Boss Leo himself collapsed straight down to the ground, his face ash-gray, lips trembling, unable to speak a single word. His 200 security personnel, his greatest pride, crumbled in an instant. Lena and Sharp Blade Squad didn't break, but every one of their faces was carved with shock and awe. The hand gripping her Tang saber trembled slightly. She looked at me, and the look in her eyes had completely changed. No longer the look one gives a capable survivor, but the look of someone gazing upon a god walking among men. I slowly lowered my hand and walked to where Boss Leo had crumpled on the ground. He looked up at me, the way you'd look at a monster, his whole body shaking uncontrollably. "Now, can my people come in?" Boss Leo nodded frantically and scrambled out of the way. I didn't spare him another glance. I turned to face Scar and the rest, who were equally stunned. "Move in!" My team snapped out of their daze. They looked at me with a fervor that bordered on worship. They knew I was powerful, but they had never imagined this, erasing an entire building. What kind of power was that? With a leader like this, surviving the apocalypse was no longer a question. Our group moved forward, every pair of eyes in Blue Bay community watching in reverent silence. As we rolled in, no one dared stand in our way. Lena and Sharp Blade Squad fell in silently behind us, as if escorting us in. I knew, from this day forward, Blue Bay community had a new owner. The first thing I did after moving in was settle accounts. Boss Leo and his inner circle, those who had bullied and exploited everyone, were locked up. I didn't kill them. I simply took away their abilities. My refresh ability, after evolving, could now be applied to living beings. I could refresh a person's body, restoring them to their healthiest condition, and naturally, I could also refresh their ability core, reverting it to its original state before awakening. When Boss Leo went from an Earth-type ability user to a powerless ordinary man, his spirit shattered completely. As for Lena and Sharp Blade Squad, I chose to bring them to my side. They were true fighters, with integrity intact, which was a rare thing in the apocalypse. In front of Lena, I refreshed a Tang saber whose blade had been chipped and rolled from battle, then refreshed a box of nearly expired antibiotics, restoring them to factory-fresh condition. Lena watched it all and finally understood. My ability wasn't spatial and it wasn't restoration. It was something she couldn't comprehend. A power that operated on the level of natural law itself. She was silent for a long time. Then she bowed her head to me. Sharp Blade Squad, from this day forward is yours to command. With Sharp Blade Squad under my command, I truly held Blue Bay community in my hands. I established new rules. Everyone, ability user or not, would receive food in exchange for contributing their labor. With unlimited supplies, I won people's loyalty fast. At the same time, I rooted out every bad element in the community. Under my leadership, Blue Bay community was transformed, vibrant and full of life. My parents watched all of this with pride and quiet relief. They never asked what my ability really was. They only knew their son had grown up and become someone everyone could depend on. Once the base was running smoothly, I began asking a deeper question. Where was the true limit of my ability? Refreshing noodles, refreshing a building. Could I refresh a living person? I found a
Follow, like, comment, and share for part 4.